calling ambulo with whatever we do. Safunola with whatever we do. Haleyide nyepamne nekulu nyepangiragala gena nyepamne nekulu buloke nongoto ni beti sola ibuloke dato ni betoto
Bege Congo
Lamin lite jibe norin te nyame Lamin
kamana wulokono
wulokono nyinte mo Lamin
pabilenki
muna ngata afamole
haina
ngata ngotole ma
Mingi baba nyola
no ngotole faburama
namu jumala kan kuma ni ten
faburama ndele bare muso
lunda mana bere jamani bere
lindo ko
jamani
bari koto man kontande
bari jamani fana na ramu man kontan
ina ka ngala min je fon filitala Lamin jibe nori nyaala
Lamin ila siran sa fane bi sayni no albo mo la ko momo
ngodo
nam
iterinte yalo ne Lamin hakkilo diata bake karambugot anu sainteng ministry ko di ngole si suoko na amake ko do holiday
si bitun
bagona de
ala ni ko kede namo balo
ala ni na ko na
ngodo
nam
ngoto mon kontan feren
jamani mu nekata
ifika Lamin ki wulo ko no nyintay mon ko do fete malo Lamin nyande sila la be la moy kala karango
jamani karamol be sorande ne ko fasita wulo ko nako
wol ma soron ni ko karamol soron da amake ko holiday lem ngodo dini wo nyanta sila la ala karango la moy yamen kamen fue man kontan anda mande
alla nyin kombo courant adanda alla kombo len do la jankara mol soron da do kamen courant ma ra do la kombo karamol soron je karamol soron Lamin ada lo nyino la amanta ra fe na sokon ala mu nekela
am Lamin ite fayde malon ko lesinol be ke kar radio to
nga fine
e ko nyani mo Lamin ya mu na fonye
bi kabin mina kan tambita nteri maning Fatu
ha
tambite la sukol ala diningol bebe siri be la moyka
faru dan so am fana tambita jele ni subala la ngaje diningol be je talanta nen kili waro e be seri jele
sa Lamin fadante ku kili ko keno la ba Lamin bi ka wulo ko no nyin taymo Lamin
amanda ra fenela
ite dine ko ni ma no la moy radio to e balon na
mu ne ka ke afonde ma nyara ni alon
jelentel jikot
afonde ma mu ne be ke
ni man karambe ku kele yaaje nata karana mbasa mala ya tarije
par ñarande kombo courant ho findira kombo ide na rajede ni sonka bay ko Lamin manyata wulo ko adu karamol be so da fa membe kala
ko to wole nati ba ngal ne Lamin kuntala kombo courant o ka fa me kombo courant asototal wala kinay ko e sisu ko no bari ni ko e sisu ko no be karangol di ke la radio lin telel to hani tele masoto to nyaay man tele soto da bongo bar radio be bulan ko to batterie sanga ay si ay ko la ta o bulaji
abe o kala nyaadi
kamun ke nyaadi
radio a ko la mala be mona falaje
ibe la karandirol kala jele
ti talle be radio ko men ka karande
ila subject no baby jele baby jele
wala nanga coco moy fa dan so wolya ngombe tambi kana ngadi ni wolje be ikadum bungo de ko kada mala
ma asototal de
Lamin mala be karawala de
bari
laftalal ideal on ko inde every year second wala fourth
nde ko folle sini lamba nde le sini no ne ba
mba say mba foke en koto wole fango yen wulindi yalo famo keta bat yu fana bulata kol ko me yen nati jambi Lamin nyanta karana ndel be jiko be nyineka ya bulay kara wulo kono ta kilar ya bambalo yo be bulaje en koto dinni ngoy si dal sino la
da karamol man soro Lamin nyanta kara si so na regular
sila le ayala le sino
dal ko
kilar ya
ma be ngala ko momo say mi do ni ko no kera
mengi bruzo
da ba ro sa abe jele ba do ngamra do man nembe buljan dala nyala nyar wo fara ko fendi mo la Lamin
ay te ku folo ajibe nori nya labi tamete ku teku bari ko do famo ke
ja e ma si zo le ke je kisi no le kafun ka nyoma bari nyambu kino ni manya na kafindi ni nambe ko so la ga
ngalle limbeta de be nyambo do dilanna
nyara ni ko rin fenna nyara nata
ko to bari famo ke da
ngata Tambi bungono jara ngando ko mele ko ke e baru nganda ni pelo landi jak bungono bismillah bisu diara ye fongo tanka sina dolu tanka koro ta koro
Hello viewers, welcome to yet another mathematics lesson for the lower basic school. Today we'll be looking at identification and naming of the types of the solid shapes. Specifically, we'll be identifying and also naming cylinders, cubes, and then cuboids. If you looked at what we have on the screen or on the board, for those of you that are, these solid shapes are also called three-dimensional shapes. That is, the object that you have seen is a three-dimensional. What makes it a three-dimensional? Because when it is placed on a flat surface, it attains a height. The object that you is also three-dimensional. Because if this object is also placed on a flat surface, it attains a height. The same will be applicable to this object, this other object that you've seen here, and then this other one here. Likewise, this, and then this other object. Because each time you place these objects on a flat, a height is attained. Now, you can put these objects or sort them into two distinct groups. The objects that you are to sort, one is the one that has a solid object with a rectangular end or a rectangular base. Sort it, an object, or on the list we also have an object with a triangular base, an object here with a squared base, an object here with a circular end, and then also an object here with a triangular end, and then another object with a circular end. So you'll be given these objects, so you sort them into two groups. I'll give you 1 minute to see if you'll be able to sort them out into the two groups that I have asked you to sort them to. And then in this sorting, you must also give me reasons as to why you sort them in that form. Now, in this sorting, what we'll have is objects in this form. That is, this object that we'll have in one of the groups will be these objects. And then in another group, you'll also have objects in this other form. So the two groups in question will be this. Why do you choose to sort in this form? What are the reasons? Put them in this form. Now, if you look at the first group, you will observe the face that is placed on the flat surface, that in this case here is a rectangle, is the same rectangle that appears at the topmost end. Now, if you also picked up another shape, that is in this case this shape here, the face that is also resting on the flat surface here is a circle. What have you also seen at the topmost end? Also a circle. This one, if you look at again the shape that is on the flat surface, is a triangle. How about at the topmost end? Is also a triangle. How about this one? The face resting on the flat surface is squared. How about the one at the top? It's also squared. So you will realize that these objects that I have just are what we refer to as prisms. How about these other ones? What is the face that is resting on the flat surface? It is a triangle. And here, does the same triangle appear there? It does not. What have you observed here? It is pointed. How about this other one? The face resting on the flat surface is a circle. Circle appeared here. It does not. What have you again observed? At the topmost end, it is pointed. This one, also a triangle, is the one that is resting on the flat surface. And at the topmost end, we could see that it's also pointed. So these objects, because the plane shape that is resting on the flat surface does not appear at the top, we call those objects pyramids. Our concentration today will be on prisms. So what I'll do here is to put aside all the pyramids. And then we concentrate on these objects. So you could see in this sorting, you'll see a group of prisms on one side, and then a group of pyramids on the other side. So since we're going to concentrate on prisms, specifically the identification of a cylinder. So let's see how we're going to have a cylinder from the lot. Now, what I also intend you doing is first to see how we come up with the definition of a prism. Why do we call these ones prisms? One of the properties is, we say that the face at the bottom appears at the top. And in this case, if you look at this object that I am showing to you, the face at the bottom is rectangular. If I place that object on a flat surface, you will also see the same rectangle also appearing at the topmost end. Similarly, if I also picked up this other one, you will see a circle appearing at the bottommost end. And at the topmost end, a circle has also appeared. And the same thing applies to the objects that I am also showing to you. Now, what is our definition of a prism? In short, a prism is a solid with a face lying on a flat surface appearing at the top. Meaning each time you see a solid shape or you come across an object that attains a height, first look at the face at the bottom. If the same face appears at the top, meaning the face at the bottom should be equal to the face, then the object is a prism. That is to say that prisms are solids with a uniform cross section. What I mean here is like, if you looked at the build up from the bottom, the same build up that continues to the end, with this object with a circular end. If you also looked at this other object with a rectangular end, you will also see the build up from the bottom up to the top. The same way, the object that has a squared base having its build up from the bottom right up to the top equal. So in short, prisms are solid objects with a, if in the event that you cannot define it in that form, define it as a solid object with a face at the bottom appearing at the top. What I want us to do here is also sort the prisms into two groups. the same. You must group them and then be able to give me reasons why you decide to group them in that form. I am equally going to give you 1 minute to see if your sorting is done properly. Now, what you'll end up having is, you will have groups in this form. That is, one of the groups will have something like this, and then another group having a single object at the extreme end. Now, what is this object here? Why do you choose to put this object aside and decide to put the rest of the objects on the other side? Now, if you looked at this, the end is round, or the end is circular. So you decided to put that aside. But what happened with this other one? The end here is not circular, but instead this one has triangle. This other one, 8 sides, the triangle. And also the same way as the one that has a triangular end and the other that has a rectangular end. So you could see that, put those with sides together, that is 3 sides together, and the curve end on a separate side. How do we call this other one? This object is what has a cylinder. It is called a cylinder. What makes it a cylinder? It has a circle at the also appearing at the top. So it is either called a cylinder or you call it a circular prism. Since we've agreed that this is a prism, by the fact that the base here is circular, same. Now, what is it that I want together? To state whether the object you have is a cone or a cylinder. Now, the shape shown is this shape. The question is the shape a cone? One of the options is yes, and the other option is no. What is your take? Is it a cylinder or a cone? The answer is no, the object is not a cone, but instead a cylinder. How about this other one? That this is a cylinder, this object, what name will you give to it? A cylinder. So is the statement there true or false? Is it yes or no? It is actually yes. Now, let's look around our environment and then see or give me examples of cylindrical objects within your environment, within the vicinity that you are in, within the area that you live in. A Milton could be one of the examples. Why is a Milton cylindrical? Because the of a Milton is circular. And if you looked at this that Milton, you will also see the same circular end at the top. What else? I know some of you will be thinking of a bucket. But if you take a close look at some buckets, they are not cylindrical because the circle at the bottom also appears at the top. They are not. So can you think of another word, cylindrical object? I think I'll have to leave you with that. Initially, we are given a group of solid shapes. And among where this shape, which has an and then another shape that has got a rectangular end, and then another with a triangle, and then this other one which we have just named as a cylinder. Now, what we did was we isolated the cylinder, the object with the circular end, and then name it as a cylinder. Started to put them together. So in this case here, you are equally asked to sort the other group into two groups. You are asked to put or to sort these objects into two groups. What is it that you will expect having? You will have one of the objects with three straight sides on one side, and then the other two sides on the other side. That is one of the solids with a base that is triangular, and the other solid with bases sides on the other side. But our concentration will be on these two. That is the solid with four straight as its base, that is rectangular, and then also a solid with four straight sides that is squared. Now if you look at these two, you are equally asked to sort them into two groups. Obviously, because there are two objects, you only have to place them apart. Because the sorting, if you look at them this way, of course if you choose to place them, one of the distinct property is this one will be taller than this. If you also choose to place them the other way around, you will also observe that, that is, if you choose to place the longest side on the flat, and then this other one, place it, you will realize that the one with the square end, and this separating, put them apart. Why separate them in this form? When they all have four straight sides resting on a flat surface. First one, the one on my left, has four straight sides resting on a flat surface. Same way with this other one, has also got four straight sides being rested on a flat surface. You will realize that the four straight sides are not equal. Only sides are equal. That is, this pair, because they are opposite each other, they are equal. And then this other one, because they are also opposite each other, they are equal. And if you can reflect on your lesson on plane shapes, you will agree that this shape here is rectangular. You take a close look, you will realize that the sides of the face that is surface are also equal. So since the sides are all equal, meaning the face resting on the flat surface is what? Is a square. Now, what name will you give to this? Since this object is a prism, and then the base is rectangular, then this object is called a rectangle prism. What makes it a rectangular prism? Because the face at the bottom here, which is rectangular, that appears at the top. Then what will be the name given to this other one, the second one? If you take a close look at this solid, the sides are all equal. And one of the confirmations that we've made was, since the sides are equal, meaning the face that is rested on a flat surface is what? Squared. And because the object is called a squared prism. Each and every has got an official name and a name that or a name that we are called at home. Officially, my name is Andrew. But in some quarters, my name is Andy. So the same way, one here is a rectangular prism. But because it is a rectangular prism, it could also be called a cuboid. So this object here is called a rectangular prism, or if you choose to call it a cuboid, you are also correct. So it is a rectangular prism or a cuboid. This other one, because the face is squared, it is called a squared prism, and could also be called what? A cube. Think of shapes within our environment that depicts this. This solid object with a squared. What is it that we can think of? Let's reflect on the objects that depicts that. Have any one of you observed or played the Lido? I guess most of you would have seen people playing the Lido game, or may have even in it. The die is an example of what? A cube. In our next lesson, I will expect you to give me more samples, excluding the sample that I gave you. Now let's take a close look at this other one. You said it's a rectangular prism. What object could you also what? Associate within your environment? A rectangular concrete pole. I know that some homes that were concrete poles that are not rectangular. You must have come across rectangular concrete poles within your household. How about the concrete poles that are erected by NAWEC to supply electricity? They are also rectangular. A cement block is rectangular. Some of our slabs depict object called what? A cuboid, because the topmost end is rectangular. Equally, I would also expect you to give me a lot of examples of these two objects. Of course, I have given you one for this, and I have given you numerous examples of this other one. But I guess you've got a lot of you can be with. So I'll expect you to come up with more samples in our subsequent lesson. Thank you very much for your patience, and hoping to catch up in our subsequent lessons.